So, liebe Leute, es gibt mal wieder ein ganz spontanes Kriegsspiel. 1 gegen 1 nur. Kleines Szenario, das ich ganz spontan aufgesetzt habe für die Frankfurt-Karte. Wir haben hier eine französische Kolonne, leichte Kavallerie, 4 Bataillone des 56. Regiments, 2 Sechspfünder berittene Artilleriebatterien, Nachschub und 2 Schwadronen Kürassiere, während die sächsische Kolonne 2 Bataillone Husaren hat, dann 3 Regimenter Infanterie mit jeweils 2 Bataillonen, 2 12-Pfünder Batterien und den Nachschub. Schauen wir mal, wie das Ganze läuft. Und zwar werde ich jetzt mal die Züge umsetzen. Die Kavallerie soll jeweils vorauspreschen. Da gucken wir mal. Die startet ungefähr hier. 2, 3, 8. Und sie sollen aber großräumig aufklären. Von daher werde ich mal das entsprechend aufteilen. Und die Aufklärung funktioniert natürlich nicht in Schwadronenstärke. Das ist sowieso klar. 2, 3, 4. Die sind ungefähr da. Jetzt nicht ins Detail gehen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. Die sind ungefähr hier. Mal, einer ist hier unten, die teilen sich auch so ein bisschen auf, wenn das Marschziel ist hier oben, aber die Aufklärung ist bekannt, dass der Feind Richtung Frankfurt steht. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ich mache einfach auch das jetzt mal ohne Flavor, einfach so. Das war der erste Zug. 9, das ist eine Hauptstraße, die kann ruhig ein bisschen weiter vorrücken, meiner Meinung nach. 9, ja, und jetzt müssten sie sich eigentlich schon längst sehen. 2, 3, 4. Beziehungsweise die sind nicht ganz so weit gekommen, aber die haben natürlich eine Vorhut. Wer bis da? So, dann marschiert die Kolonne nochmal 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 ungefähr bis da. Und dann können wir die Linien löschen. Dann können wir den ersten Bericht rausgeben. Habe ich die auch das zweite Mal bewegt? Ich glaube nicht. Auch keinen ganz so großen Unterschied. Das sieht sinnvoll aus. Okay. Dann gibt es einen Screenshot für die beiden. Es ist, sagen wir mal, 7:30 Uhr. All right, so your column is on the march, the light cavalry ahead. They've split up a little bit to cover a wider area, and their vedettes have indications of enemy movements in the direction of Fechenheim. That's directly at the main river. And that's about it. Do you want to react to that or continue your march? They cannot provide right now any more concrete or detailed information of strength and numbers and whatever of the enemy forces down there. So it might be just a little group of cavalry or it might be a marching column. They don't know. Double up the pace is yes, you can order them to force march, so to say. Double quick is an option, which you will pay potentially with wary troops. depending on how far you want to push them. Okay, you keep marching and you want to concentrate the cavalry. Understood. In which direction or where should they concentrate? Okay, 7:30 Uhr. Deine Kavallerie berichtet Sichtkontakt von kleineren Feindgruppen westlich von Bischofsheim. Sie können aber noch keine weiteren Details durchgeben.
Bischofsheim. Wo ist denn das?
Wo ist das? Wenn du von Bergen nach Osten gehst direkt?
Bergen nach Osten, okay. Ach da. Bischofsheim. Östlich. Dann würde ich meine Marschroute ändern.
Mhm.
Anstatt dann nördlich zu gehen, erst nördlich von Fechenheim, dann direkt nördlich Richtung Bergen.
Fechtenheim und dann Bergen. Okay. And Hannibal wants to have his cavalry stick together 500 meters. So there will be an order delay, of course. So they will go here and then potentially come here, then form a perimeter there because guess what? French chasseurs cheval show up and they are unsure what to do. They are ordered to scout. So that's what they do. They screen a little bit and these guys will continue 1, 2, 3, 4 along the marshland, and they will keep an eye in the direction of this position, and the French will continue to go there, and the column continues as well. 2, 3. Set them about there. They are part 12, so that's about the maximum for the report. So the French will get a delayed report for this one, which is all right. All right, 07:45, no new screenshot this time. Your column advances. The hussars in front of you report that they have slightly reconcentrated in the direction of Bergen, and they have spotted enemy cavalry there in the strength of at least one squadron lurking around at Bergen, but so far they both keep their distance. Any new orders? Okay, 745, dieses Mal keinen neuen Screenshot. Deine Kolonne marschiert weiter. Die leichte Kavallerie berichtet, dass sie sich aufgeteilt haben, um ein größeres Gebiet abdecken zu können. Das eine Schwadron ist in Richtung Bergen abgebogen, was dir ja jetzt auch wahrscheinlich ganz gut passt. Und die andere ist kurz vor Bischofsheim.
Okay. Keine neuen Befehle.
Jupp. Hannibal wants his men to be more stealthy now. And I've just told him, yeah, okay, they will stop beating the drums then. Alright, let's continue. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's continue with these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. Somewhat like that. Whoops. That cavalry, let me see the relief. Can get here good eyes on the marching column. Cavalry is not to engage. And they will concentrate even further and screen the movement. Perfekt. Kann er das sehen von da aus? Ja, kann er. Let me get the free snipping tool. That was nothing. Let me redo this like so. And another one for the French commander. There, wits. Alright, it is 0800. Your column is advancing in the ordered direction. The cavalry has further concentrated. They are screening your movement against the enemy hussars. They have now identified them to be at least light cavalry, so either hussars, chasseurs, or whatever. At Bergen. Any new orders? No new orders. Perfect, thank you. So, es ist 8 Uhr, deine Kolonne marschiert weiter. Die leichte Kavallerie bei Bergen berichtet, dass ihnen 2 Schwadronen sächsischer Husaren gegenüberstehen. Und zwar quasi Richtung Nordosten von ihrer Position aus, nordöstlich von Bergen. Und mal schauen. Ja, das war's.
Wo befindet sich meine Kolonne?
Deine Kolonne ist jetzt bald bei der Hauptstraße bei Fechenheim und die eine Schwadron Husaren bei Bergen und die andere bei Bischofsheim.
Bischofsheim. Die stehen gegenüber 2 sächsischen Schwadronen.
Die bei Bergen, genau. Mhm.
Ja. Sie sollen nicht angreifen und dann die Schwadron bei Bischofsheim soll umgehend nach Bergen reiten.
Nach Bergen, alles klar. Okay. So, hier wollte er abbiegen. Ich gebe ihm mal einen kleinen Speed Boost, den ich ihm vorher nicht gegeben habe für die Hauptstraße. Darf Ein square Bergen. So one more square here, or two, basically, because I didn't adjudicate that for the main road so far. So these guys have orders now to return to Bergen, which they will not receive this turn. These guys will continue 1, 2, 3, 4 along that road. So very interesting that he does not react to the situation. And screenshot time. There I got my menu. That wouldn't work. Let's see, 6 squares. Can see this area here about, let's say, like so. Notice that the column is behind him and this. So that would be 0815 then. And for this commander, the Saxon commander, there are woods here. What's there? He knows this. And there are woods again. So red 1, 0815. I got a ping. What's that? Viertel nach 8, du bist durch den Wald nach Norden Richtung Bergen gestoßen. Bericht von der Schwadron bei Bergen ist unverändert. Sie werden da von 2 sächsischen Husarenschwadronen abgeschirmt. Dafür kommt ein Bericht von der Schwadron von Bischofsheim. Sie sehen eine Feindkolonne aus Infanterie entlang der Straße nach Bergen marschieren. Also, was ist das ja, nördlich von Bischofsheim, Richtung Bergen. Brauchst du ein bisschen Zeit drüber nachzudenken? Apparently he's not there right now. So there's one indication. An officer comes to you from the back of your marching column that one of the infantry officers there has seen cavalry movement near Bischofsheim. And you want to have the cavalry fall back onto your line. That's certainly possible. That's it? All right, perfect. Just setting those up for a player, or for a spectator actually. So one of my players just went offline. Well, I guess the column will continue then. 2, 3, 4. Oops. These guys have orders to reconcentrate. They will probably try to probe. Anyways, let's keep moving and assume that he will return soon enough. It's 8:30 then. He might have a glimpse of the area now, I guess. $8:45. Ah, okay. Gut.
Mein Laptop hat immer noch Probleme. Also ich weiß nicht, was es war.
Jo, macht ja nichts. Du hattest zwischenzeitlich einen Bericht von der Schwadron bei Bischofsheim. Die hat sich zwar mittlerweile in Bewegung gesetzt, aber sie hat gesagt, dass da eine Infanteriemarschkolonne an ihr vorbeigezogen ist oder vor ihr entlang der Straße Richtung Bergen unterwegs war. Die Schwadron bei Bergen berichtet, dass sie immer noch abgeschirmt wird von feindlicher leichter Kavallerie.
Also die feindliche Kavallerie steht zwischen meiner Kavallerie und meiner Kolonne. Oder wie abgeschirmt?
Abgeschirmt Richtung Nordosten sozusagen. Sie können da nicht aufklären.
Ach so. Ich möchte beide Kavallerien nach Enkheim, glaube ich, heißt, zurückbeordern. Und soll auf die Infanteriekolonne warten. Naja, hast du die schon da? Ja.
Okay. Deine Kolonne kommt ja wahrscheinlich jetzt bald bei Bergen an. Hast du für die schon Befehle? Soll sie irgendwie Aufstellung gehen und weiter marschieren?
Noch nach Bergen. Erst noch nach Bergen weiter marschieren.
Du bist sehr abgehackt leider. Bei Bergen warten, war das richtig?
Ja, bei Bergen warten dann.
Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Kavallerie soll zurück. Die Artillerie kommt jetzt langsam hier an. Die schleichen sich hier so rüber. Just waiting for orders from Hannibal. The cav are to go in front of the marching column. Front of the marching column, that's up there. Is that Wilbel, I believe. Okay, so he wants the infantry to move into the woods. The artillery to deploy on high ground. Let's apply, because these are not light infantry battalions. We apply disruption for moving them through woods. And all that gets delayed because the cavalry is now ordered to move through all this mass to this position. All right, so let's get a new report. There's the hill, there's the valley, there's the town. Here are the woods. And I guess at some point I messed up with the time. 45, 8, 8:15, 8:30, 8:45. Then it's now 900. Es ist 9 Uhr. Die Spitze der Kolonne geht bei Bergen in Wartestellung. Die leichte Kavallerie zieht sich langsam wieder zusammen. Sie berichten, dass die Feindkolonne nach Nordwesten weitergezogen ist.
Nordwesten. Welche für die von Bischofsheim und die von Bergen?
Die von Bischofsheim.
Nordwesten. Ist so Richtung ich möchte, dass die Infanterie über den westlichen Weg nach Wilbel marschiert. Und die Kavallerie soll in der Nähe vorausreiten und scouten.
Das heißt, du willst
über Bergen, ja.
Ja, okay. Und dann auf die Hauptstraße da oder auf die andere, den Weg da östlich dieses Bachs oder westlich die Straße?
Einfach diesen dünnen kleinen Pfad da Richtung Norden.
Und da soll die leichte Kavallerie voraus durch den Wald.
Ja, voraus und scouten.
Okay. Alles klar. Alright, so it's 0900. Your column is slowly sickering into the woods. They are already a bit disordered by cavalry moving through the column, or at least they had to halt and make way for them. Now they are getting into rough ground, which they are also not especially happy about, but that are their orders, and the artillery is moving north onto that hill to deploy there as ordered on high ground. You don't really have eyes right now on the enemy. And I see your screenshot. Okay, over there the guns. Yep, got that. Thank you. You want a view on Bergen. Okay. Do you want to get a view yourself as well, or just reports from your men? Reports, roger that. So they are ordered to get further in, which will continue to disrupt them, obviously. And I don't know why always the 2nd battalion piece gets mixed up with all this. They continue here. These guys will be disrupted. The artillery has counter orders to come over here. Basically like so. And the cavalry, the hussars, are sent into these woods. And how far can they go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6. Like so. They are ordered down here. And these two have basically the same order the other way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because they are moving off roads here. They can't get up as... I guess these guys are still... Oh no, he gave orders to have the man get back in marching column and continue through the woods, which basically means the column comes to a halt. Okay, new screenshot. Which is now 9:15 for red and 1 for blue. Let me see, did I get the right channel? 9:15 blue. All right, everything is moving as ordered. Your men, some of your men are sent forward to the edge of the woods and they are scouting in the direction of Bergen. They see a cavalry movement there from east to west, so in the direction of, what's that called? Berger, yeah, I don't know, Riont, something like that, and a few infantry battalions at Bergen. That's all they can see. Into the woods to Prince Anton. Sure. Okay, So, die Kolonne kommt leider nicht weiter, weil sie auf die Kavallerie warten muss, die jetzt da sich auf den Weg in den Wald macht. Ich gerade mal schauen, ob ich sonst noch irgendwas habe, was ich dir berichten kann. Nee, eigentlich nicht. Es gibt jedenfalls keine Sichtung mehr in Richtung Nordosten. Bist du da? Hallo, hallo, hallo. Okay, da scheint es Internetprobleme zu geben. Some issues with the internet connection. And so the cavalry would continue 1, 2, 3. These guys would continue 1, 3, and they would basically bump into each other in the woods, which is a big no-no. So, even though they are light cavalry, of course, but anyways. And this will pose some issues for the infantry as well. I assume we will see. We will have to roll the dice, and the blue one is the cavalry die. So we have that. Or is it actually? Wait a second. Let me double check. Yes, that's the cavalry die, of course. So we have cav on cav and close quarters in the woods. And they roll a route and only advantage. That is not the case. So anyways, I will apply a disruption marker for this anyways. And these guys are going to route immediately. No. Route, which means they are also losing a step on the system. They are backing off immediately, which means these guys are getting disrupted as well, potentially even also routed. But let's not, I mean, it's certainly a situation where that could happen. And yes, I would say it's even though it's an advantage route, I would say these guys are breaking as well, which is sort of hilarious, but anyway. So, and these guys can then continue to, I guess, up to the creek, I would say. That seems somewhat reasonable. Should not be able to move full speed ahead. All right, so then new screenshots. So this officer is now in the thick of it, but he can see the indications of marching columns. At 9:30. Okay, also schriftlich. Let's see. Okay, it is 09:30. You are with your man in the woods, and you see the indications of a marching column continuing from Bergen into the woods. To the west, you hear heavy fighting noises from the woods. Okay, so that's a bit unfortunate that both players are obviously unable to use their microphones properly. One because of internet connection, one because of audio quality. He wants the cavalry to reach the infantry, whatever that means. And blue. Okay, so blue, the French want to form a line and heavy cav push forwards past the column. I don't know. Alright, let's see what all my infantry units are to get out of the woods and fire at the enemy forces. The artillery are to fire at the French troops. The artillery, however, has no line of sight whatsoever, even if they, say, have a range of 6 here. These are 12-pounders, potentially 5 effective. They got no sight of the enemy whatsoever because they are staring at woods. So I guess these guys are still, so anyways, these are routing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, put them here. 1, 2, 3, 7, put them there. And he wants to get the infantry now to move out of the woods, which they cannot do as quickly as he wants to, even if they are in marching columns. That will take some time. Let's see what blue, the French, the infantry. Kürassiere sollen durch den Wald reiten. What the heck? Let's give them this way, this way. Can they spot the battery? I'm not sure if they can, but can the battery spot them? That's the big question. Would they open fire onto these? Not so sure given that slope here, but there is the creek valley, so let us let's have a, oops, that's the wrong one. Let's have a die decide. And I would say on a 5 or 6, they have spotted the enemy, and they absolutely did so. So they are turning their guns, they are getting ready. And the first salvo of the day is going to blow off. Let's see. 2 dice, which tell us a route if close, no advantage hit. Well, advantage if I had even more, yeah, okay. So basically these guys get disrupted and pushed back. These guys are wondering what's going on, where the hell these batteries came from. And the infantry obviously is ordered to continue as well. 4. Now he has his guns in the midst of the woods. It's all a bit hilarious, and now he wants these guys to surpass the marching column, which is almost impossible. We could say though that, I don't know, these guys were held back so the cavalry could get into the woods. I don't know, but while doing that, they will certainly spot these movements here. So I would say they deploy. Now the big question is, would these guys also see that movement? Potentially not, because now they are screened by their own cavalry. On the other hand, they might just do that because they see the cavalry deploying, although they are not aware what's going on. So that is again a good situation to, let's have a die deciding. On a 6 they will deploy. No, a 5. That was a very close call. All right. Screenshot time. Something like that for the French. 9:45. Looks a bit like a bat to me. And ports for the Saxon general. Your infantry regiments are making their way out of the woods. It takes them some time because there are no roads, no ways they could use, and they are starting to get in position to deploy. In direction of Bergen, though, you see that enemy cavalry, apparently heavy cavalry, has deployed now and is screening the enemy marching column, which yeah, you have indications that it is continuing their path north in the direction of Wald. You have a report from your light horse, though, that they have been routed actually in the woods. They had a fisticuffs there in the woods with French cavalry. Pretty weird. French cavalry got the better of them, and your cavalry is now retreating and reordering. Yes, they have been routed. So they don't know. There's no report on the enemy cavalry though. But you hear your guns open fire, and as your aide-de-camp tells you that the guns, how they are set up, they basically cannot support your movement to Bergen because there are woods in between. That indicates that the enemy cavalry has broken through the woods and is now close to Wilbel under fire of your 12-pounder guns. Report from light cavalry. They have routed. Achso, ich kann das ja Deutsch schreiben. An officer of the cuirassiers is riding along the column. And reports Let's see, orders from red. Let me get my orders in. Sure, you can. Now the big question is our French player still there? There seems to have been quite a ranging internet outage in his area. So we will see. So both players are getting their orders in. Alright, so the Saxon player basically wants these guys to continue and start to deploy, which they can, but the question now is how to adjudicate this. I would say, I mean, these guys will be able to get down here, no matter what. Yeah, the artillery is ordered to continue firing at the hussars, which they will do. Get the dice down. For that. Down here we need a cavalry dice, I would say, then because this situation the hussars will, the cuirassiers will actually just rush in. And then we need to see if these guys are able to actually get into square, because, I mean, the infantry in these days is certainly trained to do so. However, the thing is that, let's get all the dice and we need what we need here, that they are disordered, breaking out of, or breaking through the woods, trying to get in formation. That might be a bit tough. So these guys are furthest away. They should certainly be able to form square. So let's say that is a 1 to 4 is a square. It's a 3. They go into square, deploy. And that basically means they form regimental square here. Now these guys, they are the closest. They will form on 1 or 2. So they do not manage to form a square. And these guys, I also disrupted, they form square on 1 to 3, which is not the case. So now the cuirassiers are going in, smashing in, and we have this square firing at them, I would say. Let's see for blue orders. So he wants these guys to move west. Schnellstens nach west. These guys to move northeast. So they are basically in the cover of the town then, moving. These guys are running. Way. Guess they can now slowly begin to rally again. Like so, and so northeast, he wants the infantry to deploy to the northeast. So there's not much space actually to deploy properly. However, they could get support of their 6-pounders. That would make sense. And these guys are continuing up here. That means we have an artillery duel because the horse guns, they will be able to fire back. We need a new smoke marker for that, which also impacts line of sight, obviously. Drop it here, get it a little bit bigger, and then have the one battery shooting at the chasseurs à cheval, which are undercover. Medium to close range also if. So that's 4. Close range is 1, medium range is 2, I believe, and they are protected by the village. And then we have firing at, I would say, this battalion, which was the first in line. Rout if close and fired less than 50 minutes. So the enemy is not close. That is not a rout. And then we have counter battery fire. Hit 2 units at all range if under 15 minutes. Yeah, they have just deployed, so that's their first salvo, which is again a very interesting outcome, I must say. But we go with that, we roll with that. What will be much more interesting is this here. So first the infantry, shooting at the cuirassiers going in. Advantaged, they are certainly not advantaged because they are not facing one-to-one against the enemy, and there's a lot of turmoil going on here. So now the cuirassiers smash in and they get a rout on these guys. Oops. Oh, they can remain in column. And they have advantage hit, heavy cavalry only. That is certainly a hit. Okay, so these will rout. That means the cavalry anyways is disordered now. Just because of the combat. So now the question is, these guys are scrambling away. They are just turning around, trying to get wherever they can, pulling their officer with them. Will these guys break as well, and will the cavalry go in? So I will allow actually the square to fire once again, which to only advantage hit, I would say is not a hit again against these guys. Although one could argue that they are now under suppression fire, sort of. So what about these two? Are they disrupted? Let's just use the infantry die for that to not get overly powerful against them. And that is all experience advantage hit. So I would say against these guys that would be breaking as well. This is also an advantage hit. So that would mean the whole line would collapse. That is probably a bit tough. So what we can say instead is, well, these guys are just having enough of it. Why is this actually reduced? I don't know. Were they hit by anything? No. No, there was no hit here. There was a misclick by me then. So, but they are now in a bad spot anyway. So that makes that's the combat. Let's have a screenshot. So apparently the French are getting the better of the Saxons. It's 1000. But that is not because of doing very well. That is more because of, I mean, like commanding especially well, but because of their units doing very well. All right, as your battalions or regiments, I should say, are continuing their way out of the woods and trying to get into line formations, the cuirassiers smash into them. Only one regiment is able to form regimental square to face the enemy, put some suppression on them, but that doesn't really help their brother regiments here much, because 2 battalions are routed. One of them is the one of the Prince Anton regiment is pulling you with them back into the woods. The other one also runs into the woods, into the cover, and now there's a bit of a turmoil. To the north, you still hear your artillery firing, and well, that's about all you can hear in this chaotic situation right now. And the report for the French. You're leaving the woods. Yes, first battery. The artillery opens fire. Light cavalry has made space. Oh, so Hannibal will swing his sword and try to rally the men. All infantry units are to turn and fire at the enemy. Yes, he wants to deploy. He certainly wants them to deploy. So, and I would say these... So there is a rally action here, an attempt at least. And I would give him a rally... I mean, it's pretty chaotic. In the woods, I mean, they were disrupted before, they were just stomped by heavy cavalry. Now they are in the woods again, and it's very hard because they are dispersed to rally them. I will only have them rally on 5 or 6, which barely does not work out as intended. So they are now, they know where the batteries are, so they are making way to the batteries. These guys, however, they will form up again, and now they are sort of in a pickle. They hear they hear firing all around. So maybe instead of facing the cavalry, those guys will get to the edge of the woods and open fire into the unaware flank of these guys. So we have that. Now the question is, can these guys, what will they do? They would potentially try to also form a square, and they are now aware of what's going on. These guys need to reform anyway, so I will pull them out again. Still they are 400 away. He wants them to deploy, so let's assume one of his aides gets away and has them deployed. However, they are far out of range. Do we have any cavalry combat? No. We will assume that these guys are meeting up over here. They should now be back in good shape. Somewhat. They've certainly suffered losses. This cavalry continues and now has the option to either go flank the enemy guns or continue as ordered to the northeast. They hear the batteries rumbling, and the officer knew about them as well, so they will continue actually. So he started here. They will actually be able to get to here and deploy. So these guys will also be able to react to that and face off. They don't have enough movement to actually charge. So the French commander is asking for reports from the heavy cavalry. So they report that they assumedly have wreaked havoc on the enemy infantry. Just waiting. So these guys are not fighting. We can put down the dice already. Artillery again. Blop, blop, blop. The infantry die is here. So these guys are continuing westwards and sitting there and waiting. We can remove the disruption. I will leave the disruption on these guys because they were riding through the town and under artillery fire, even though they weren't reduced by that. Funnily enough, there's no ammunition been spent so far. That's interesting. Okay, let's see. French orders. We're waiting for the orders. I mean, even if these guys get new orders, there won't be much happening anyway. I'm just waiting if he has orders for the artillery or anything. So I don't know. I'm really wondering why both of them. Maybe they weren't aware that these are woods. That's potentially possible, right? Maybe we even allow these guys to get one shot. Yeah, let's have them have a skirmishing shot on the cavalry. Hit applies only in bad terrain. That's not the case. Too bad. Too bad. You could have been the heroes of the day. Alas, you weren't. Yeah, anyways, let's roll for the artillery already. What do we got? Advantage hit. Also if fired longer than 15 minutes. The question is now, would they rout if close? No, so that's nothing. But these guys, do they actually miss an ammo symbol? Does this version of the dice have no ammo symbol? Not sure. Maybe that's an old version. Might be so. Anyways. One hit. Now the question is, where do they fire? Do they actually hit the artillery potentially? So orders from the French. Light cavalry should ride to the northeast to get north of the enemy artillery. A young officer from the cuirassiers who reported that they had destroyed all the enemy infantry gets a promotion, and the heavy cavalry shall ride north so that they get east of the enemy guns. So basically they get orders to ride over here, which they cannot do. Okay, so the battalions are actually ordered to advance, which they will do, to make space for these guys who will take their position and get the guns up. So the smoke intensifies because it's going on for over 50 minutes now. These guys are moving forwards. Advantage. Did I roll this already? I think so. Or actually, I can't remember, so let's reroll. Should have deleted it if I had medium to close range, even if longer than 15 minutes. That is not medium range. You did nothing today, and oh, well, that's not true, but these guys are actually oh, that feels bad, man. I will apply a disruption for the surprise anyway. That feels really bad. Okay, so we did that, and we needed to apply that hit. Right, that was still missing. So I would say they either fired the guns. I mean, they have smoke in front of them anyway, so either this infantry battalion or the guns. So that is 1, 2, 3. No, it's actually the guns. Counter battery fire effective. Perfect, we did that. Are these guys... No, they have just fallen back to reform. So that's perfectly fine. Oh, which means we can't get new screenshots. Or actually there's smoke, so they cannot see those guns. It is now 10:15. It took me a while to throw those dice. Dottelfelder Hof, right? Yes. Okay, that was the report for blue. Okay, so despite your effort, the battalion you were with did not rally. It's now sort of assembling there at the supply wagons. You hear and see that your guns are keeping up the fire on the enemy to the west. One of the Prince Anton regiment's battalions seem to have held the position. They also sort of evaded the cavalry into the woods and have now attacked the enemy infantry to the west as well. And you receive a report from the regiment Prince Friedrich August that they have formed regimental square and repelled the enemy cavalry attack. And the 1st Battalion of the Bunau regiment has formed line as ordered and is slowly advancing in support of the square. Supply at the wagons and a fighting retreat it shall be. Okay. Very well, thank you. Okay, so he wants to do a fighting retreat. These guys are obviously able to rally their men. I think the wagons will sort of make way, and now he should be able to rally these guys as well. They are Prince Anton regiment, however. These guys, I guess they will not receive the order this turn. These guys potentially could. They are in a somewhat good order. The square, I mean, they can form mass square, so they can actually start moving, but very, very slowly, only one square. And now the question is, I mean, the cavalry has orders to advance in this direction. Will they charge again? That's the big question. I guess that's a decision for a die roll. They were quite effective on their first charge, so I would say on 1 to 4 they will actually try to charge again, and it is a 2. So the cuirassiers are going in again. The French cuirassiers hitting hard. They are on fire this time. Big question is, this battalion, will it form battalion square or run into the regimental square, which is also potentially an option. It is a 1, so they do actually form square. Now that's a bit of an issue for the cavalry. The infantry fires and they get hit applies only in bad terrain, which is not the case. And then the cavalry smashes against the square. And they do advantage it, medium and heavy. Now that they are charging a square, they are no longer advantaged. And all experience levels advantage it. So this time the cavalry is repelled. And they are still disordered by that. They're still disordered. So he wants them to circle around, but the unit officers didn't follow this order. My 2 southern battalions. So these guys are ordered to turn, which opens them sort of to enfilade fire actually. But they are ordered to return the fire. Pew, pew, pew. Die im Norden soll sich weiterhin der Artillerie nähern. Meine Artillerie soll das Feuer auf den Gegner beibehalten. Die zweite Arti soll sich neben der ersten einordnen. So this battalion keeps marching on. And this guy keeps following, I guess, and support. And now he brings up the guns, but the guns are now screened. So how on earth should they be able to fire onto the enemy positions? We don't know. The cavalry comes back. They might be able to exploit an attack on the enemy flank. These guys are just staring at each other. So that is about it. We get to the artillery then. They should be able to get a shot out. It is rout if close. No effect. And these guys, yeah, they have now two very juicy targets. So one will fire at these advancing battalions, the other one into the flank. Advantage hits also fired over 15 minutes. Yes, that is a hit. So they are both disrupted because they are marching behind each other. And this one is what? Whoops. Medium. Medium to close range. Is that medium now? No, still not. Unfortunately. However, it is it is firing. But is it? Let's put down a second disruption marker. I don't want to route them for that, but they are getting shaky now. Shaky, shaky, shaky. And those guys are firing again. Rout only hit if bad terrain. So the enemy is not in bad terrain. That's nothing then. And they roll a hit and a hit advantaged. Now the question would be, would you say they have the advantage because they have so much firepower? Potentially yes. So I will apply only one hit though. So these guys, they refused the order to fall back, but now they are forced back. Anyways, I guess that is all the combat situations. We give a new report. Now we need to increase the smoke. So it's now 10:30. And for Mr. Red Commander, you can now see the guns. You can potentially see the square. Red. All right, so your men are reforming currently. The artillery is still firing on the enemy. And to the south, you see that your infantry is still in square. They are slowly advancing up north to join you, but apparently they are still under threat by enemy cavalry. You even hear some musket volleys from down there, so hopefully they have repelled the cavalry once more. Yes, I can repeat. So you're with your men at the battery. The men are rallying right now. They are getting back in good shape. You hear some musket volleys from the south, where you can see that one of your regiments is still in square, but slowly advancing in a massed square formation in your direction. They seem to be still under threat by the enemy cavalry down there. Other than that, your men are getting ready to withdraw. So, sorry, it's because I'm writing the report for the French play in German and I'm not good at talking to you in English what I'm writing in German at the same time, you know? So, I just reported that it's getting hard to see or, yeah, really identify much with all the smoke and combat noise. The cavalry squadron just passed by and said they would be getting into position to attack the enemy guns from the flank, and the cuirassiers have reported now that they didn't actually destroy all the enemy cavalry infantry, sorry, but tried another attack which failed. They will now shift to the east, but yeah, they also notified the commander that would potentially get enemy forces in between both of them. Let's see, we have orders from Red. Ja, Dottelfelde hoch. Okay, so he's just waiting, which means these guys are pushed back, right? That's what we did. They should be back here now. They are continuing slowly in battalion mass. Regimental mass actually, but you know, battalion mass is the proper formation for that. There's still smoke that remains. These guys have been moved for this turn already. Or actually they should be about here by now. So they can reform. They are no longer disrupted anyways, which allows these guys to slightly shift over and hopefully protect the guns. And I'm now waiting for Blue's orders, and I think then we can actually call it. I will remove the disruption, reform them, potentially have them shift. Artillerie soll Feuer einstellen. So he wants the artillery to cease fire, which is the only wise thing to do. He wants to shift this battery to attack the woods, potentially. So, and these are ordered to sort of make way for the artillery to fire into the woods. Okay. Let's see. First, he's actually pushing the infantry right into the guns. They cannot even make it. They are ordered to face north. Okay, that would be interesting. Now we have sort of canister range here. They are firing at nothing really. The cuirassiers actually start moving east. And what else do we have? The infantry will not be able to attack. Now the question would be, no, that would be next turn. So it's actually only the guns really. Oh, and I did this. So let's see. Hit also if fired longer than 15 minutes. They are certainly in a very good shape or position rather. And we have another route if close and fired under 15 minutes. Okay, so it's a single route. However, yeah, well, that's what the dice tell us. What else? I mean, we could now, if we were harsh, we could have one of these sort of break and route as well, which would be very interesting. But I guess, so we have been playing for about 2 hours now. I think we will call the game at this state. And because there are several things I want to point out to the players. Now the question would be how would I do that? But we get into that in a second. All right. That was a very, very interesting game, I must say.
Yeah.
For several reasons. All right. I will. How do we do that? I will stream the table, but also put some screenshots into. Oh, you actually are both able to watch it? Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Good. So let's go through the starting conditions. So we had a Saxon force up here at Klein Dorfelden, and we have had a French force at Frankfurt at the beginning of the game. They were slightly what to say, asynchron, or asymmetric is the right word, I guess, as the French had 2 battalions of infantry less, and only 6-pounder horse guns, but had 2 squadrons of heavy cavalry cuirassiers, whereas the Saxons had 12-pounder artillery and more infantry. Objective for the Saxons was to get to Bergen and prevent the French from actually taking it and marching to the southeast, while the French knew that the enemy was there and they were to find and destroy them, or rather prevent them from getting to Frankfurt. Turned out that the initial orders were very interesting. The Saxons wanted to go basically this way at the beginning and then behind the woods, which they really stick to, and the French basically went along the main road here. Then I guess they wanted to go somewhat in this direction, I believe. At some point when they got the sighting reports, they changed that to get to Bergen and then eventually to get through the woods, as the Saxon column was sighted by their light cavalry here, then here, and then apparently hiding behind the woods there. Which I think is, from both sides, a very unusual and interesting decision to push yourself into the woods. I mean, the Saxons then basically pushed their regimental columns into the woods here. And tried to, at some point, tried to break out when the French were sighted marching north from Bergen. They were countered quite effectively by 2 squadrons of cuirassiers, who I think routed 2 battalions immediately and disrupted, I think, 2. And the Saxons had a hard time to form square, which they eventually managed here on the flank. The cuirassiers went in a second time, but not quite as effective. And then the French, and in the meantime, tried to set up sort of a mixed order attack formation here, despite lacking the space of doing so, and then frontally advanced against the guns, which didn't turn out quite as intended, I guess. 1 battalion was broken immediately by case shot. And it is quite fortunate for the French that these 2 battalions are still in place, because they were even under enfilade fire here, and yeah, they are relatively close to the 12-pounder guns. So yeah, the decision to march that long column of infantry and even have, the intention was to actually have the cuirassiers sort of squeeze in between the infantry and the woods and get to the north, was a bit unusual, I would say. The approach of sort of setting up an ambush position was slightly better, I think, in this regard. Although with the cavalry close by to sort of immediately charge these disordered and sort of trying to deploy regiments was unfortunate for the Saxons in this position. The artillery of the Saxons were not quite effectively deployed because they had the woods in between, so they couldn't really support their infantry anyways, even if they would have had a lane of fire down here. Once the French pushed to the north through the woods, they opened fire here and had some effect on the cavalry and on the infantry. But yeah, also sort of very unfortunate roles, not as effective as they could have been. So, and we lost Hannibal, which is unfortunate. Okay. So that's basically the situation at the end. The light cavalry is reduced. They did reform and would have probably launched an attack with 1 of their squadrons in the enemy flank, which should be quite effective against the artillery. Yeah.
That was my plan.
And yeah, well, the cuirassiers, they would, I guess, in 2 rounds, they would be able to attack the enemy center here, although these battalions would have reformed, and there are still these 3 moving around.
Yeah.
So that report, the initial report from the cuirassiers wasn't quite accurate.
Yeah. Well, at least routed 2, that's not bad at all.
Yeah. First attack.
Almost right.
Yeah. Wasn't too bad. There were actually checks for sort of cascading routes of the neighboring battalions, but they stood their ground. Yeah, I mean, I think my main point would be, I mean, the initial light cavalry combat here. So basically, the Saxon hussars walked into the woods, and the French chasseurs did as well, and then they fought here at this creek, and I don't know, for some mysterious reason, the French really beat the crap out of the Saxons, and routed both and made their way through. But yeah, that's probably not where you want to have cavalry in the first place. And also don't try to sort of push your heavy cavalry or any cavalry really past some infantry columns on small paths through the woods.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then up here it was just sort of a question of space deploying there.
Yeah. Between the village and the forest.
Mm-hmm.
But the enemy was there.
Yeah. That's true, but actually, I mean, that is what most players do, especially new players. Or I mean, still can witness that with more experienced players as well. They will go after the enemy, but that's not always the best thing to do.
Okay.
Sometimes it's just better to just find a sort of advantaged position, or a position that allows you to somewhat strategically control the area, and then have the enemy just come for you. Okay, and Hannibal is asking in his channel, who won? Yeah, well, that's a very tough question. Who won? I think the French are in a more advantaged position right now because of the cavalry. The light cavalry sort of is the key now. The cuirassiers maybe, but I guess they can be intercepted. Comes down to their effectiveness then, really, in this case. Yeah, I'm also not sure. I mean, the the Saxon forces had the bigger guns with more range. They could have deployed further away, maybe in this hill here, and lay down fire in this area and have their infantry properly deployed there, if they didn't want to go for Bergen. But I can see why players are trying to do this surprise ambush attacks. It's just that line infantry through woods, not the best idea. Okay. Hope you enjoyed the game, even with the technical difficulties.